Welcome to Business Over a Brew, the show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders, all while enjoying a nice brew. I'm your host, Nick Darr. In this episode, we'll talk to Greg Lyons and Lou Bycanic of Midwest Members Credit Union. They'll tell us how they truly try to exemplify being a community credit union and some of the changes that have impacted how they do business on a day-to-day basis. So let's get to it. It's the Business Over a Brew podcast from Germania Brewhouse. All right, well, welcome to Business Over a Brew, Greg Lyons and Lou Bycanic with Midwest Members Credit Union. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you.
Greg, let's start with you. Just talk a little bit about your journey into how you ended up at Midwest Members Credit Union, basically.
How I ended up?
Yeah.
Well, I've been there going on 22 years. Started in actually the savings industry way back in the 70s and worked for different savings and loans and bank entities before I came to the credit union in 96. Came as a loan officer at that time and worked my way through the ranks and wound up becoming president in 2012 at the credit union after the previous CEO retired. And so I've had a really good relationship with the people in Wood River. Worked basically in Wood River for about 30 years. And especially the credit union industry, I introduced to it by coming to the credit union. It is a unique thing that is different from any other financial institution. When you get into it for a while and learn what it's about, the people that do it every day, it gets in your blood a little bit, and it makes you look at things a little differently than you might otherwise. And that's been the good thing in these past 22 years of learning that and learning how other people rely on the credit union, trust it. And that's a huge responsibility for all of us, not just myself, but for everybody.
And Lou, what drew you to the industry, number one, and Midwest Members Credit Union in particular?
Was probably going to sound kind of boring because it's much like Greg's story. I didn't start out as a credit union person, and we all start out on this journey somewhere, and I was started with the credit bureau, so became a loan guy, sold credit reports, and then was introduced to a credit union, worked for a credit union for a while. Loved the credit union. I went to work for a corporate credit union. Then I went to work for a bank. And it's really, really different. Banks have their niche and they do a great job. They do a fantastic job for the audience that they serve. Credit unions really, really focus on local businesses, local consumers. We call them members because they're truly members. Very high touch for us. And we did some interviews, and this is probably getting off just a little bit, but we did some interviews with some of our staff. And one of our staff's comments meant a whole lot to me and said, you know, it's nice. And she worked for a bank and she worked for a large bank. And we all serve our niche, as I said. And her quote was, and her comment was, you know, it's really nice to know the president at the institution that I work for. Meaning that it's that close a family. And it really feels like family, and we serve families of the community. So it's very, very rewarding.
Greg, full disclosure, I've been a member for a long time, and a lot of changes in the last 20 years in terms of location and names and things like that. So just kind of walk us through the history and some of those changes.
Well, the credit union itself actually started in a small part of the bank down on Ferguson Avenue in its origination in 1934, worked its way up to another location which is on Ferguson, which used to be the Vantage Credit Union, then sold that to Teachers. That was Teachers Credit Union at that time before it became Vantage, and moved to 6th Street in Wood River. And about 1985 or 6, they did renovations there. And then in 2006, we moved to our present location off of Wesley Drive in Wood River. So that's the history of the credit union from its inception, in essence, in 1935 when it got its charter, but 34 when it organized. When it organized originally, it was workers from the ConocoPhillips plant, which then was, of course, Shell Oil Company, and it was think it started with $26.50, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the amount that started the credit union.
About what's in my account now.
But it just goes to show you what we were talking about earlier about the nature of the membership aspect of it and the co-op aspect of credit unions that has grown to over $120 million institution through the efforts of our volunteer board and the people in the Riverbend area that we serve that have made it their financial institution.
Lou, I'm impressed by, through locations and different names, but the culture and that community culture has stayed the same. What are some things you guys do to maintain that? Because I know that's something that's important to both of you.
I think part of that is just truly the credit union spirit. And, one of the things that we do is serve the local communities, and that is very important to us. And, being involved, we do a lot of things in the community. We've been approached by, several communities that we serve, saying, we really like to offer some things through youth athletic programs, through the high schools, through many things like that. And will you help support that? And we absolutely do help support that. And we're very glad to do that. And that's one of the ways that we give back to the community.
And one of those programs I know is the Scholar Athlete. You do an Oiler of the Month and a
Yes.
Shell of the Month. Talk a little bit about that program.
Well, that was initiated by Lou and our marketing director in terms of the initiation of that. It's not uncommon to what you see other financial institutions in the Riverbend do, but that was our hometown schools, if you will, from our origination in Wood River, and we wanted to make sure that we were participating in those types of activities and supporting those students in their athletics, because although it's been a while, athletics is an important thing and a thing that all of us were involved with when we were much younger. And we want to make sure that those same opportunities are available to kids now, both in Wood River and in other schools in the Riverbend as well. And the credit union has worked very well with local baseball there in Wood River that we've supported, which is a Tri-City, supports Wood River, Bethalto, and Roxana schools, or kids that are in school that can play ball, but it's not a select situation, so it gives them the opportunity to do that, and we've supported that the last few years. That's been very rewarding, really, let alone what we do with the high school kids.
What are some of the biggest challenges right now in your industry? I know security has got to be a real high priority for you guys.
Any institution, be it credit union or bank, that doesn't work on that aspect of their business every day. The protection of our employees as well as the membership that comes in every day is the paramount issue, and their assets, the things that they entrust with us to do. And with the recent spat of things that we've had here in the Riverbend, which has thankfully been resolved, at least in the short run, we're always very, very cognizant of our duty to ensure the safety of everyone and their assets, and the cyber security of it, and how we operate our home banking systems, our online systems to give access to our membership through their phones and devices is extremely important to us, and I'm sure it's something that's just going to be part of life in financial institutions from now into the future.
It seems like there's been quite a bit of an expansion in terms of just the services offered. There's, home loans, auto loans. Talk about that. That's been an intentional decision on the part of the credit union to expand some of those services?
Well, I think people nowadays expect any financial institution, be it a credit union or bank or otherwise, to offer all the variety of services, irrespective of size. And we've always been able to do that. We've been able to offer home loans, automobile loans, personal loans, all different types of accounts for their needs. We also have a Members Financial Services representative firm inside the credit union that partners with us to provide those services. It is a separate entity from the credit union, but it's served the credit union for a number of years, and their representative has done a good job of working with people to build their assets into retirement and other needs that they may have. And just as we have as our organization. Those are things that we are always cognizant of building on and making sure that we've got the type of products and the type of services that will make people want to use us.
Lou, one thing I'm struck by when I go in the credit union is it seems like everybody that works there is having a good time. It's like they enjoy being there. If you had to give some advice to somebody that's coming out of college and maybe looking to go into the industry, what advice would you give to them in terms of starting a career in this industry?
It's a great industry to start a career in. Much different than it was when Greg and I started. I think we rode horses and parked them out front whenever Greg and I started, or it seems like
I think I pulled up in a wagon.
But no, it is very rewarding, and credit unions are a great way, and especially credit unions, not just ours, but in the Riverbend, in the community, in that you get to touch a lot of things, and there's a lot of opportunities. So if you want to learn financial services, you will get plenty of opportunities working in a credit union to pretty much do whatever you want to do, and to find your niche and to find out what you really like. And some people like doing the account work, interacting with people that way, transactional based type things, and other people like to do loans. And there's plenty of like to support on the back end. Some like to support all of electronic services and things like that. So it can be very rewarding, and you can kind of find what your niche is.
Well, Lou and Greg, it's a great success story. It's a great local business story that we're happy you came on Business Over and Brew and helped us tell.
Thanks
for having us.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for this episode of Business Over a Brew. Thanks to our sponsors, Germania Brewhouse, and our guests, Greg Lyons and Lou Bicanic of Midwest Members Credit Union. I'm your host, Nick Darr. Tune in next time for more video of me drinking beer with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders on Business Over a Brew.
Thank you.
Good. As I get ready to slug.
Everybody down.